Live with Kevin Rankin.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with All Access Live with Kevin Rankin. We've had a little bit of a break, and I'm grateful to be back. I would not be here if it weren't for my great sponsors at 5 Star Guitars. If you are a guitar player and you're interested in buying guitars or accessories, please go to 5starguitars.com/allaccesslive. Everything you see there, you'll have a discount of 15% by using the promo code of AllAccess15. They've been around in Oregon and for over 25 years. If you go to that store, you'll find online that there's no sales tax if you're outside of Oregon. So you're going to save a bunch of money. You'll save 15% by supporting us, and we would not be here if it weren't for them. So I want to mention that one of my favorite bass players around is Don Schwarz. We met about 25 or almost 30 years ago in the Portland, Oregon area, and I'm grateful to have him right here in his Portland studio. So, Don, thank you so much for joining us, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, you bet. This will be
Let's
fun.
let's pretend like we haven't talked in years.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, just before we recorded this episode here, we were talking about your studio. You've got a real great full production studio. It looks like recording mixing console. You've got guitars, bass, mandolin. I see some drums over there in the corner. So tell me about what you're doing as far as production right now. Do you have independent artists that you're bringing in on your own, or are you working with studios, or what's your current state?
No, this is, I mean, I play with pretty much, I play with a few different bands or different groups or whatever, which is my kind of fun thing. But this is all just pretty much for me in my music creation or whatever, doing different things. I go different, in music for libraries or just, sounds and sound designing and stuff like that. So, and it just depends what it is. I mean, a bunch of different things.
Are you okay? You mentioned sound design. I know that engineers oftentimes are either they're Pro Tools guys or they're Logic. Or are you primarily Pro Tools because you're working a lot in film too, right?
Yeah, yeah. But no, I'm a new window guy or
Okay.
Cubase Pro. New Window is just so
Yeah.
it's and I'm mainly because it supports different mix situations like Atmos and stuff like that. So a little bit different thing.
Right on.
But it also it's a also I've been my go-to for quite a probably 10 years now. I mean, I've played with all of them and I use them all.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so you get kind of like you figure out what you like and like to do. And so I am, Pro Tools is great, but if I mean, if you jump around in different programs and different DAWs, then you kind of get pretty familiar with all their quirks and everything else, and then you're figure out your workflow or whatever. So New Window has been my choice.
Okay. I always wonder how if you're getting music from say another, you've got a band that recorded some stuff, say over in Europe, and
Uh-huh.
they want you to remix something that they did. Are you just getting stems from them and you're remixing that stuff, just the musical stems, or if they maybe say they did it in Pro Tools, right? So they
Right.
okay. So how do you get something from another DAWs to
There's a few different ways of doing it. I mean, there's OMF, which is a format that you can like package it up and send, and it'll open up in another program. I mean, if it was Pro Tools, I'd probably open it in Pro Tools and then kind of see if they've already done some mixing and stuff, and they have plugins and so that type of thing, and kind of like take it on in that form.
okay?
But for the most part, stems, a lot of times it's the easiest thing.
Sure.
If you're just starting from scratch and you don't want, they're just going to send you the raw recorded tracks and you're going to go from there, which
Okay.
is a good way to go.
It's
I mean, yeah, it just depends what part you're in. Like in film and TV, it's way different. You stick to kind of the Pro Tools or, the programs and use AAF packages from video. So it goes back and forth. There's all kinds of crazy things to do.
You mentioned film and TV. I know that you just finished a pretty major project, man. You had the new Pinocchio record,
It's
and
coming out. Yeah.
the film, right? So but you
Yeah.
finished your portion, and it's all done and ready to be released. Is that right?
Yeah, it's finished. Yeah, I'm still on it though. I'm still doing a bunch of stuff for
Really?
Netflix. Yeah. Yeah.
How does that work out? So they release to test audiences and see if there's some things that need to be tweaked, and then
No, no, they actually, right now, it's being released in like in the film festivals and stuff like that, as well as also doing the premiere. Next weekend, Saturday is the premiere down in LA.
oh
So
wow,
I'll be going down to that and walking the red carpet, whatever that means. But
yeah,
so there, no one, yeah, I won't be one of the guys that there are people that are looking at and taking pictures of. But so that they do that. They also do a release in London and in New York, um, and Paris, and then it's played at a few like three different film festivals right now. So they played at those, and it gets that's how it gets reviewed early on by
okay,
and so it's doing great. It's actually actually a fun movie. It's a Guillermo del Toro movie.
right.
So it's his take on a Pinocchio story. So it's not directly out of the book, and it's definitely not, the Disney version.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
So,
probably pretty dark, huh?
not as dark as you'd think. I mean, it's actually it's a great story about a father and child story and that relationship. So you being a dad like me, it's
Yeah.
actually it's pretty like, oh yeah, it's so it's that kind of thing, which is really cool.
I,
So
you know, it's interesting you mentioned that. I would imagine that you see it in a different light as a father, right? So I
yeah.
would imagine that. How much creativity did you get in the sound design behind it? Are you actually able to be sort of I mean, well, first of all, tell me about what you did on the.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. On this, I did not do any sound.
Okay.
I'm pipeline technical director,
Okay.
so I do a work with a lot of media and everything else. But no, the Steve Gazinski at Sound Labs, they did the sound.
Okay.
This was a little out of my realm of what I can or should be doing. It was
It's a
a very
huge.
large. Yeah, it is exactly. I mean, Alexandre Desplat did the composing, which and it was Air Studios. That's where they recorded the symphony. So I mean, it's a big production. So, but here in Portland, I'm kind of like the technical guy that makes everything works and brings everything together and figures out how to get everybody on a project management system and controlling, and so yeah, a bunch of different things.
You're the funnel.
Yeah, so I
You're
get
not,
to work with all the fun media.
that's yeah. Did you work with some locals that you based in Portland? I mean, did you get to work with other production people there in Portland?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
we had a lot of people from Portland working on it. Trying to think if there's anybody.
Animators?
Oh, a lot of animators. Do you know? Yeah, a lot of stop motion animators from Portland.
Really?
Also, yeah, flying in too. We had a lot of them come in. There was like three stop motion productions in Portland going on at the same time. So stop motion, it was like stop. I mean, you could turn around and you'd find, oh, you're in stop motion during this whole
Wow.
period of years, which is great. I mean, there's still going on, and Leica's pumping out good stuff out there. They're working on a new one. Um, and we'll be starting up another one. So it's
Really?
yeah.
I had a funny, just a serendipitous sort of situation in London a few months ago where we finished our tour, one of the last shows. There was a guy right up front watching me, and I'm thinking, okay, well, of course he's a drummer, right? Because he's kind of
Right.
eyeing every drum fill that I do. And I went over to talk to him afterwards, and I said, "You've got to be a drummer." And he said, "No, I know rhythm." I said, "Okay, what do you do?" And he said, "Well, I'm an animator." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I didn't realize, what he had done. I mentioned I'm from Portland. And he said, "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Of course, you probably know of Will Vinton." He goes, "I know Will well, absolutely. We were on, many, many projects together." This guy's name was Ian Eames, and Ian had been the animator for Dark Side of the Moon. He did from Pink. He's worked with Pink Floyd since
Oh
1972, I
wow.
believe, and he worked for um, Brian De Palma for a long time, and he
Hmm.
had some amazing stories doing music videos for Duran Duran, and so it was a fun conversation that turned into a podcast. So you can check
Oh,
that out if you
cool.
look back in your
No,
archives.
definitely.
I'll
Yeah.
make a little link here to that episode. It was cool, but yeah, I mean they are everywhere, and it's funny that those people don't just pop up the way you might see, somebody in the front mainstream, but
Hmm.
the fact that you were that technical coordinator, the funnel, did you get any opportunity to kind of make recommendations? So if they said we need somebody for this particular thing, did you get to throw your hat in the ring and say, okay, I know this guy for a certain? I'm not asking for me.
No,
I'm
no, 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 no.
wondering.
Um, no, not really. I mean, a lot of it was a lot of big talent stuff. I mean, so as far as the animators, we had some pretty heavy hitters, and our lead animator, he's been in it doing it for a long time, so he had his picks, and then so it was yeah. So no, you know, and plus I'm so from the music side of
Sure.
things,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Even for that, I wondered if maybe you could make recommendations for somebody with a certain ear, because as an engineer,
Mhm.
one thing that I loved about you, I mentioned this about how you were one of my favorite bass players. There are a million guys out there that can play notes, but there's something about your tonality and your feel. The way that you listen is so unique, uh, that as a drummer, I feel like you and players like you make me a much, much more musical drummer. I remember watching you and Sean Moultrie play, with Tales Untold. You could see that you had this technical ability, but you're a very musical player. You hear melody, um, in much the way that, like McCartney did, with his playing of the Beatles. It wasn't just, you're not laying down just a foundation, but you're very musical in the way you choose stuff. So thinking about that in your production, um, I would imagine, do you do any sort of recommendations when you take people in your studio and you say, I think you have a little more. You could, do you steer people in a certain way to kind of to take on some of that melodic approach?
Um, oh yeah, yeah. It all varies on what I'm doing or what is being done. First of all, that's an awesome compliment. I mean, those things that you said about my bass playing. I think everybody bass player should want or wants to hear something like a comment like that, because that's And Sean Moultrie, great guy. Still play with him. I play with him in Old Mill
Oh
and
yeah.
Cloverdale. So
Wait. Do you guys? You're playing with Cloverdale as well?
yeah. Mhm.
I had Chad and Rachel on the show as well. That's great.
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't know.
yeah.
All right, cool.
Love those people. I've been playing with them for, oh God, 9, 10 years now?
Right on.
Yeah.
That was probably a transition with Tim Ellis then, right? So,
Yep. Yep.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim working, for those that don't know and you're watching the show, you've probably heard me mention Tim's name about 200 or 300 times. That
Yeah.
just the way that I mentioned, the way
Mm.
you, as you're playing, impacted the way that your drummers play. Tim was like that for me. He made me 10,000 times a better drummer
Eh,
trying to play with him just because he pulled that out of you, you know?
He did. He'd also toss you into things too. Be
Oh,
like, I remember him pulling me up on stage quite a few times going, "Hey, can you play this song?" Like, "Yeah, sure." And all
yeah,
of a sudden he's got you playing, you know, 6 songs that you've never even heard. And he's just
sure.
like looking at you. But because Tim could do that. Tim
Yeah,
had that, I don't know, he had some extra special sense to know what the next chord was going to be,
yeah,
or the way he could voice so he could get away with it.
right.
But yeah, nah,
What?
everybody loved Tim, and we all loved Tim and missed Tim
Rest in
greatly.
peace, man. Yeah, one
Yeah,
one of the greatest artists I've ever met.
yeah.
What's probably the most profound thing you remember him teaching you, or anything that sticks out to you that as a positive memory? Well, they're all positive for the most part.
Well, for Tim, it wasn't music, it was just him.
Yeah,
As you know, he was the hardest working guy in showbiz, and it wasn't always showbiz that he was working hard at.
yeah.
He was a guy that was, working hard as a father, as a
Six kids.
great I know, as a great human being,
Yeah,
as a landlord, property management. I mean, he was, like, doing everything, and it's like, one of those guys that, every time I think, "Oh, man, I'm just tired, I'm doing too much." It's like, you think Tim Ellis, you go, "What the hell?
right.
I'm maybe doing a third of what Tim Ellis was doing," because that
Yeah,
guy was always busy. Yeah, and always positive.
that's
I think
true.
that's the other thing. Just
Yeah.
always fun to play with and always positive, and that's something that was my big takeaway with Tim. But no, yeah.
He wrote the book. I mean, the book wasn't written, but he's all there. The drill sergeant of Tim Ellis is still stuck in our head, right? It's like, get back there,
Yeah,
get back to work.
yeah.
Yeah, man. I would imagine that, all of us sort of have a Tim Ellis in our lives, but how fortunate we were to to have it. His daughter. I'm sure. I think I saw you actually at the premiere, right, of the film.
I bought tickets, but I couldn't get in.
Oh,
There was something came up, but yeah, I had
yeah,
tickets. I know.
amazing. It was This Is Tim as the film. So folks, if you're
Yeah.
out there watching, find that documentary. It's a good one. I know it's on Prime, so you can actually get it on Amazon Prime. Let's talk about some of your production stuff though. I put the SoundCloud link. There's a shortened SoundCloud link down below that people can see a really like wide variety of stuff that you've done. Of course, there's some Tales Untold stuff, both released and unreleased, but there's also some stuff I didn't know you did, like Sandy Wilson. I saw the Sandy Wilson trio. Were you working with him as well?
No, what's there, Sandy Wilson on there?
Well, Sandon, of
Oh
course.
no, I love.
Yeah,
No, I know Sandon really well. Yeah, we have. Yeah.
I think it might have been in the playlist you had for
Oh,
International Women's Week. It was a really cool playlist that you had in there, and I thought maybe it was stuff that you put together a playlist that you produced. But yeah, it was really cool. The Tales Untold stuff. Um, I'll never forget the first time that I got to see you guys play on a llama. Was
mhm.
actually, you know what? On a llama hadn't even formed yet when I first saw you play. I had just moved to town. I was with Dave Rummins and Luke Duran, and we went out and saw you guys. And I remember being so astounded by this some seemingly British lead singer, right? This guy that
Nathan.
came
Yeah,
came in from the UK. Yeah, so yeah, so
and he was a Hillsboro boy,
right, right.
all the way across the highway.
Unbelievable. But yet, yeah, but even aside from the British accent, the band had that vibe, right? There was a real Brit vibe about it. The style of the band and the style of the
Yeah, yeah.
the harmonies and everything like that. So obviously, you guys had that influence. Um, Prior to Tales Untold, tell me a little bit about Don Schwartz history in Portland.
Oh, in Portland, prior to Tales Untold. Geez, it's funny. I had a memory that I don't think I've ever shared with anybody on a llama. I met your singer.
Leah,
Um, yeah, Leah. Like I think I'd been in Portland for like about maybe 4 or 5 months, and I was at Portland Music trying out their new status bass that came in,
oh my,
which of course it was like you drool over, and they would not give it to you unless they stood there next to you.
right,
Back then in the early 90s or late 80s it was or something.
okay,
And Leah and a friend came in, and she wasn't even a bass player then.
wow,
And I know that this was like early, and she like, you know, approached me and was like, "Oh, who are you playing? What do you want to play?" Because we're looking for a bass player, and it was I think she was doing a cover band back.
mhm,
She was yeah starting to cut or doing a cover band, and it's so funny. It didn't click forever. That memory came up, and I was like, "Oh my god, that was Leah. That was
wow,
totally Leah."
yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny. And then of course she became a bass player, and a good bass player.
Yeah, really
So
cool. I, I've mentioned Analama a few times, and maybe if folks go to your SoundCloud link in the show notes, I'll post some stuff to SoundCloud that has some Analama, some unreleased stuff. I've mentioned it before too. Another one of my favorite bass players, and that's what got me into her and her playing. I just couldn't believe how unique she was, but her voice, man,
voice.
her voice was ridiculous.
Yeah. And you
But
guys were awesome. You guys were a great band.
it was a
It
cool
was so much
band
fun. Cool band.
collectively. Yeah, I mean, we both have had some, really, fun gigs. But prior, so you said you moved in the late '80s. Where were you from?
Mhm. Kansas, Northwest Kansas.
Okay, oh, you didn't want to stick around the thriving metropolis of musical opportunities in Kansas.
No, no, yeah, raised in the country on a farm and milking goats, all that
Oh,
stuff. Not kidding. Had a goat dairy, yeah.
my
So
God, I love it. And so you moved what, 88, 89?
no, we moved out of Kansas up to kind of Spoke Dayton, Washington
Oh yeah.
in like my freshman year, and then down to Walla Walla, Milton Freewater area,
Wow.
and then went to college, and then decided to just it was so funny because I was trying to at the time I was like thinking I wanted to move to Austin
Okay.
or to Portland. Those are my two options. And I lived in Walla at this time, and I had the 65 Volkswagen bus,
Mm.
who I sold to Sandon Wilson,
Oh really?
which yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
just kind of maybe a weird connection there. But
Right.
then, and I had this 12-foot sailboat that I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Austin, and I was going to go to Austin, and then I was like, I got in my Volkswagen bus, and and if you've ever had an old Volkswagen, which it's kind of like
The
it broke
first
down.
car. Oh,
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, if you've ever had a Volkswagen too, you go, I can fix it. So you pull out the and everything else. So I got it fixed, and I realized I better just go to Portland, which was my second choice.
a lot closer.
It's
Really?
a lot closer. Yeah.
How would life have been different for you if you'd gone to Austin, do you think?
I don't know. I think it would have been good too. I mean, yeah, I think you make it what you make it where it is. I mean, that's just, we are
Yeah.
all that way. I mean, to a degree, you know. Granted, I think if was stuck in Northwest Kansas, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Probably not, but be a hell of a goat milker, man. I'm
Oh
telling
my God,
you.
I'd have the most amazing goat dairy. I'd be selling goat cheese, everything.
There's always a future for you, my friend. Yeah. I,
Never too late.
Austin, actually, it's interesting. I've only been a few times, played there a few times, and um, I've had a lot of friends that went there, to pursue music, and it was
Mhm,
kind of like it was kind of the rock version of Nashville then. Now Nashville is certainly very much a rock town, right? But
mhm.
um, there were opportunities that I would expect people to have musically there. That music didn't really seem like a central hub in Portland, but I came just because I loved the energy. I came, of course, to pursuing rock stardom from Montana because that was at least some place a little bit bigger. But there was so much incredible music that came out of Portland, that has come out of Portland. When
Yeah,
you came in the '80s, of course, there was great stuff happening, and then it just it morphed and evolved into whatever Portlandia says it is now. But
sure.
but when you first got to Portland, was there any particular music group or artist that you latched onto that just turned things around for you?
Oh yeah, I think there were so many good bands and good music, and also clubs. I mean, we still Portland, of course. I'm not a one of those guys go, oh, back then it was way
Right.
better. Back then we
It's
had
different.
this, we had that. I think the only thing that we had that was better, which was also really bad, but it was also something that they don't the young musicians don't have today, was the Palace.
Oh, right. Yeah, the
You
rehearsal
know,
spaces.
yeah, one of
Yeah.
those rehearsal spaces that you just don't get here in Portland. You can't. Property's just too expensive now or whatever. But that was
Well,
such a
I
cool
hate to
rehearsal space.
Puddletown Studios there. They've got several venues or several spots now.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
I'm not aware.
they just
So,
they don't publicize it much because there's never
oh,
any available. But yeah, if you're in
yeah.
Portland, you're looking for rehearsal, check
But
yeah.
is it just one single plywood wall
Same
and
same as
no
the
heat and one outlet that
oh yeah,
the breaker will pop every 15 minutes?
I think that has to be part of the nostalgia, right? So
It does.
yeah, it's just 4 times more expensive now because Portland's got expensive, right?
Oh
So
God, yeah.
well, Leah actually wrote a song about the Palace.
Oh, she did.
The first line of the song is "I've got to get out of the palace." Yeah, that was yeah, Hall is the name of the song. So if you're out there looking, I'll post a link to it.
Okay,
Yeah,
dude.
so for people that don't know, if you're a musician, you know how difficult it is to find a place that you can rehearse and have all access 24 hours a day and no volume limits. Some place that you can plug in and hang up, all your gear and have nasty, smelly, old equipment and clothes and beers spilled all over the floor and one central bathroom that is shared by 1,000 scummy musicians. That's kind of what it's what you have to have in order to pay your dues, right? So
Very charming, very charming.
it builds character. Yeah. So
Yeah.
aside from that, like when you came to town, did you? Because I remember seeing Tales Untold. I remember seeing Nero's Rome.
Mhm.
Silicone Jones was a band I auditioned with because I wanted to see if I could hold my own. But I think Sweaty Nipples was just on the way out.
And
Uh,
Love on Ice.
Love on Ice, man. Dirk
Yeah,
Sullivan, your buddy Dirk Sullivan, my
yeah,
buddy Dirk Sullivan, one of my
yeah.
favorite guitarists. Yeah, that band was just when I moved to town. They were just on their way out too. So how about for you when you
When I
came to
first
town?
came to town, one of my favorite bands was Cooler
Oh
to
yeah,
go see live. To go see live. I mean, it was like those
funky.
guys pocket. It
Yeah,
was the rhythms. Those guys were so deep in the pocket, and
yeah.
Nate Phillips. Just yeah, and I mean, oh my God,
Right.
it was insane. And I was like, that just that little guy just always at their gigs doing the head thing with them. I
Nice.
couldn't help it,
Right.
It's like, oh,
That was
because
like
they had that funk,
that
deep
was
pocket funk that was so tight.
it was like Portland's version of Chic. That's what it
Yeah,
reminds me of, or Cameo. That kind of
yeah,
vibe.
yeah, Cameo, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
But
And then, of
I
course, Dan Reed.
oh
Dan
yeah,
Reed was a great live band, and
huge.
I got to play with some of those guys, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so, oh gosh,
Was it interesting, like, when you got there, because Portland still hadn't really been on the map. They had bands like Quarter Flash and New Shoes,
new
that
shoes.
sort that gave them some national attention, but Seattle was really starting to take off, right? I mean, that was the big thing is that, by the late '80s, early
Well,
'90s, they were getting
yeah,
going.
and back to the Tales Untold thing. I mean, we were, you know, uh, we were hitting it, our stride right when grunge came into place,
Oh, who?
and we were we were that band that was influenced by the Beatles, of
Right.
course, and Super Tramp, and oh geez,
So
you
Cheap
know
Trick in the
Oh,
harmonies as well.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
Cheap
yeah,
Trick, all this
yeah,
like rock pop-ish,
yeah,
great. We were all about the hooks and the harmonies and the really melodic, rock and stuff. And then, yeah, and then we were, as a matter of fact, we were down in LA working on our album when Nirvana's album came out, the big
wow.
one. And we're like, I mean, that's it just came out on the bill. They just released it in the Billboard and all that, and we went, what?
Oh, man. When you first heard it, did you,
Yeah.
when
Oh
you
yeah,
first heard,
yeah,
yeah, Teen
yeah.
Spirit, you're
When
like,
I heard
"Oh,
it,
okay."
it was good. It was
Yeah.
definitely good. I mean, I saw Nirvana, live a few times, 2 times before that, and that was like the indie talk about them and everything else. And when I saw them live, I was like, "What? I don't get this."
Right.
But that was before Dave Grohl. That was before they'd produce this album with drummer. Oh my god.
Yeah, 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 from Garbage,
Yes.
yeah,
Anyway,
oh my
yeah, I know.
well, we're not gonna go on until we figure it yeah, from Wisconsin. Why can't I think of his name? Yeah, amazing producer and engineer. Uh,
Really amazing. Yeah.
okay,
Anyway,
that's
uh,
okay. Everybody watching this is gonna be like, "It's" yeah,
you idiots! You can't
right,
remember his
right.
name?
But yeah, I mean that did magic too. I mean, there was not that they needed studio magic, but it did gloss it up a little bit and made it
Oh,
ready for
I don't.
mainstream.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. And back then, oh my God, I almost had his name. Anyway, back then, it wasn't. He didn't like do all this crazy, amazing production. He just made it so real and
Right.
good. He knew how to. He knew like Anyway, so yeah, so that happened, and then then the other great, Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and all this stuff, and we were this. Tells Untold was this band that the labels loved us. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I should say every AR guy goes, "Oh my God, I love you guys, but you're from the Northwest, and I don't know, we don't know what to do with you.
Right.
You're not grunge. We're signing grunge,"
Yeah.
and it was such a like, oh, you
If you
know,
had just had an in with Butch Vig, you would have been just
oh,
fine.
Butch,
That's
dude, you
yeah.
did
It was
it.
magic. Yeah. But when the labels came out, did you have showcases from people, coming out from New York and LA just saying, "All right, so
Yeah,
what's the" yeah.
yeah, we
And
flew down to LA and did some showcases and that, and they, again, we had people that oh, I love you, but yeah,
that's so tough. I
yeah,
I mean, I mean this when I say Tales Untold was certainly one of those bands that I think had they just had a Butch Vig or they had somebody that could just tweak it a little bit, that would have been and should have been the next big thing for sure. I just thought, how can these songs not have been recognized by somebody to make you at that level? And there's always a band like that. I mean, there are a million.
oh, there's
If you're an up and coming musician, it's so much about who you know, right? I mean, it really is. There are some
and timing.
yeah,
It's all, so many, and it's that way in life, but
sure, yeah.
it is. But yeah,
Uh,
so
uh, the ability to be there and be ready. I mean, the timing thing is really important, right? So if something comes along, make sure you got your stuff together, so that
yeah,
and don't let that stuff pass you by. You don't want to woulda, coulda, shoulda, anything,
right,
right?
right.
I, if there was a band that had, I mean, we talked about the Beatles and Cheap Trick and that kind of thing. Up and coming Don Schwartz getting out of college. If you could have jumped right into a national band, who would it have been that would have been like your dream gig?
And National band jump into. Oh,
Ni-
wow.
1988, they're touring the world, or even a small band. Who was the ideal gig for Don Schwartz?
It's so funny because all the bands that I liked had great bass players.
For
That
sure.
was,
Well,
yeah.
if those bass players had taken off, right, they're just like, all right, I'm done. John Paul Jones just says, okay, I'm retired, and I need Don Schwartz to replace me.
Oh, God, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I liked so many bands back in the 80s. Um,
It could even been, any time in history. Where do you feel like you would have fit best, even now?
uh,
Sorry to pigeonhole you, but
no,
these are
no, I know, no, that's a tough one. I mean, I definitely feel like I'm more of the 80s, bands. That was kind of that's where I get a lot of my bass stuff because that was such a great, and in my opinion, some cool stuff rhythm section wise, like Simple Minds,
oh yeah.
Tears for Fears. I mean, I was into all that heavy, that rhythm section cool stuff.
I could see you
s-
in you too, for
um,
sure.
yeah, Simply Red. I mean, yeah, yeah.
Really, I mean, you and Larry Mullen, I could imagine you, playing with Larry and having a good rhythm section pocket group there. But are you a U2 fan at all?
Yeah, no, I like you too. Yeah,
Okay.
no, I do.
I
Yeah.
I I like them more having seen them live. I mean, I
Yes.
dug their stuff, but after seeing them live and seeing how collectively, that's one of those bands to me that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yes, totally. They're a great band. As a matter of fact, if you want to talk about great bands, they're one of the great ones because one, they're still doing it.
Right.
And
Same
as
like
you know, it's hard to keep a band together no matter what, even if you're especially, successful or unsuccessful, keeping some people together and all happy and communicating and on the
yeah,
same. So, yeah.
right. You can even sit like within 15 feet of each other on the same stage. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man. It's remarkable, right? It doesn't. I mean, there's a reason that there are only a few of them out there.
Yeah.
But um, when I was thinking about our history, yours and mine together, I know that I was trying to find footage. I think there was a gig that you and I did together with Nicole Campbell,
Oh, yeah.
and Dave Langeness on guitar. Dave is another one of those guitarists to me, like Don or like um, Dirk Sullivan, that is so talented, but plays for the song. Listens to the
Yeah.
melody and really plays for the magic of the artist. And that was a neat thing. I mean, Dave Langeness is one of those one of the guitarists that I feel like is a magic being in this soup of Portland musicians that
Yeah.
could easily have gone on to any national stardom too. But very humble and amazing player. And how about some other artists that you've played with in the area that you feel like just really pushed you musically?
Um, let's see. Playing with uh, Dan Pred.
Oh
Dan
yes,
Pred, one of those drummers, that you know, and Corey Burden.
oh
Corey
yes,
Corey actually played in Tells Untold for a while, so it was like, but he's one of those like just
yeah,
and and same with Dan Pred. They're just such a I'm in command of this
right. Not,
rhythm and you guys are following me and you
nothing
can't help
tentative.
it was great. It's like, oh, I don't have to do much here,
Not
so
no, not a timid bone in their playing body, right? And
no,
that's what
not
I
at all.
love. That's
No.
like Kenny Aronoff, right? I mean, just
Yeah.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, to me, I just watched McCartney. I saw Abe Loreal Jr., right?
Uh-huh.
And I'd never seen McCartney. I love Abe's playing, and one thing I noticed about him is that everything is so just perfectly chosen. Everything that he plays, and of course, you're not going to overplay with McCartney, right? But even when he played dynamically, he'd play with the quietest dynamics, but everything was so perfectly placed, and and it's cool, at this age to be inspired. Like I feel like a teenager watching guys like that, thinking, "Oh, that's how it's done," right?
Right.
But
Oh yeah.
do you still go out and see live music quite a bit? Like,
As much as I can.
yeah,
It's still one of my favorite things. I love to go see live music, and I probably do it. Yeah, I don't do it too much. You can't do it too much, but I try to go out and see friends play all the time, but also just see acts that come through, and
old with the Fix. I think the last time you and I talked outside the
yeah,
Fix,
we
right?
went and saw
That's
Fix.
right.
Yeah,
Amazing show.
Yeah,
Really,
it
to
was.
me, I I was I remember talking outside that venue and feeling again like a young musician inspired because of the dynamics, the choice of tones.
Hmm.
It sounds really funny, but as a drummer, the thing that stuck out to me the most was guitar tone from that
Oh,
band.
that guitar is totally one of the most unsung, does not get enough credit
Yeah,
for, they're play as a guitarist because he
yeah,
plays. I mean, other guitarists, you can get, they listen to him, they go, "Oh, that's really cool." What is he doing?
right,
But he does. He's a really creative rhythmic guitarist and lead guitarist, and the way his parts, it's like, oh, it's not your standard, you know,
right.
what,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
it's
what I noticed about that show, I think it was three-quarters of the way through the show before he stepped forward to play a solo.
yeah.
And then when he did, you're like, okay, dude knows what he's doing, right? So yeah,
Right.
those are my favorite kind of players for sure. I was just in Cancun for the week, saw a ton of bands across the board, right? I
Uh-huh.
saw I saw bands from Climax and Sheena Easton to Living Color and the Cult and the Culture Club and the Time. Oh my God, the Time. Wow. You talk
Morris
about
Day.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess he just got the name back for the time. So Morris is out there doing his thing, Jelly Bean on drums, and
Oh,
it was a show. I mean, I've
yeah.
seen him before, but this to me, they had a major part of the show that was a tribute to Prince, of course, and my favorite all-time artist, man.
Yeah.
And it was like starting over again for me. Tears, man. It was for me. I felt like I could go back and start playing and have a different perspective on everything, the way I listen and the way I interact, and it's kind of nice to be able to do that and hit the reset button a little bit. Do you remember? Can you think of a show that you've seen in the last couple of years that stood out to you that profoundly?
Um, yeah. Well, I mean, the most recent one was Royal Blood.
Mm.
Have you seen those guys?
Crystal Ballroom. I was there. Yep.
Yeah, there was that one, but I saw them. I've seen them before a couple other times, but the first time I saw them was actually at the Roseland.
Yeah. Right.
And
I love that band. All you need
I
is two
know the guy
bassists.
is his bass shit that he's doing with the multiple with pitch shifting, and you're just
Yeah.
like, and the riffage, he's like so riff heavy, and it's so right on, and those two
So
English
tight.
boys are just like crushing it, and he's a
Yeah.
great singer, and he's also a really
Handsome.
cool melody. His
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, so
Gamble.
that was for me. Yeah, that was for me. I went home, I came home and I got a bunch of pitch shifters and
Oh, did you?
renting my guitar amps and everything else. Yeah, and I totally went, "What is he doing?" Figuring it out, and so that was like, "Oh, this is so cool." So, and it's
Man,
like, okay, but I can never do this because he's doing it.
could though, because then you could have me join you and we could do it together. It'll be it'll be just instead of royal blood, it would just be like some we'd be like
uh, let's
we'd be
see,
peasants. We'd be
dried
peasants.
scab or something. I don't know.
I don't know,
No,
but that would be so cool because
peasant scab. That'd be
right.
there. Yeah.
Hey man, that's close to Beauty Stab, which is another Portland band.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Courtney. Yeah.
Corey.
What
Uh,
what's going on with Tales Untold, man? Do you think you guys will ever reconnect? I know that the band is kind of everybody's on different places, parts of the world
I
now.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go see Nathan this weekend, which
Where's
is
he?
exciting. He's down in LA.
Okay.
He's down there working on TV shows and movies. He was doing a bunch of the Star Wars for Disney, like The Mandalorian. He's working on that. Yeah,
What is
I don't
he?
know if you know this about Nathan, but he's a
Okay.
major Star Wars. I would say geek, but it's not. It's because I love Star Wars and
Sure.
everything else.
What
And
does he do for him?
He's a fabricator.
Oh,
So
really?
he loves to make, he's always been into models and making stuff. So he's worked on like Batman and what else? I mean, just an Iron Man and all that stuff. So, he made Iron Man's boots and all
Wow.
kinds of, so
That's
yeah, yeah.
that's
So
cool.
it's really cool what he's done. As a matter of fact, I'm staying with him while I'm down in LA for the premiere, he and
Okay.
his family, and his guest room is the Star Wars room. It's nothing
Oh,
but it's hilarious. Yeah, I should post pictures because he doesn't get on social media that much,
yeah,
but I should
dude.
post pictures because his room he collects Star Wars. So, I mean, I think there's a life-size Yoda and a stormtrooper and Darth Vader. I mean, everything in there. So it's good. Yeah.
If
So
you were okay, let me put you in that space then. If you were reimagined as a Star Wars character, who would you be? Which character?
Oh, geez. I would want to be I would I would hope well, I'd want to be Han Solo
Oh, nice.
because he was
Okay.
the coolest. I mean,
He
he
was
was.
he was the
He was
coolest.
yeah,
Yeah, I see you more.
scruffy.
I kind of see you more as Skywalker though, buddy.
I know.
I
That's
do.
probably it. But
I,
of course, I want to be Han Solo. But
you know,
no, I'm the
even Luke,
dorky Luke
even Luke
Skywalker.
wanted to be Han Solo, right?
Exactly right. We all do.
Oh my God, no, I was cool being Luke, man. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
and the rest of the guys too. I mean, Keith he's up here in Portland, right?
Yeah. Well, he's yeah, McMinnville, but he plays
Okay.
with Colby and
Dance
Dance
Hall
All
Days.
Days.
I
Yeah.
did see them before I left. That's cool. Great player. Oh my God, it's such a great
Yeah.
player. And Sean is still around, is right?
Sean, yeah, I'm playing with Sean in Old Mill and Cloverdale, and he's playing in a yeah, he's playing in Pulp Western, which is a kind of a it's a Western kind of they do a lot of honky talk. They're really good.
Wow,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a man.
And
That's a stretch. I mean, so for the most part, everybody's around except for Nathan. And
yeah,
oh,
and Wayne is up in Vancouver
okay.
and he's working music sales. He's like traveling all around,
He was at
selling music
Beacon
gear.
for he was at
Not
Beacon
at
for he used to
Yeah,
be.
it used to be. Yeah, now he's
Yeah.
now some other larger company and he goes all over. So,
Man, that like Portland icons. It'd be nice to see, if you had like a 25 or 30-year anniversary. It'd be cool to have Tales Untold come back together for
yeah,
a show at the like a Doug Fur show. Even though it's small and you guys would pack the place out, it'd be such a cool, intimate vibe. So
it would be.
that's me putting it out there. All right, guys, Nathan,
Put it out there.
you're gonna have to send me a picture of the Star Wars room too, because I want to make
I
sure I
will.
put that in the show notes. I think people are gonna want to know. And where's the premiere at for Pinocchio?
It's at the Chinese Theater down in Hollywood. So it's like the full on
It's
thing.
legit. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
of course it is. I mean, but yeah. Well, that's just like the foreshadowing for you getting your star on the Walk of Fame. That's
Yeah.
gonna be what got it. Well,
Yeah,
what
they'll rush me along.
what are you working on in the studio for your stuff right now? You have any of your own music that you're working on?
I've actually, in the past 6 months, I go through these like, phases because I kind of have to. I go through like phases of doing some genre or whatever, and I get into it. Not because it's my favorite genre or whatever. So I've been totally going down this disco, major disco. And so I've been like, I've got, I don't know how many, songs that are in that genre of just some heavy disco stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I've been enjoying it. It's actually kind of it's a lot of fun.
God, that's beautiful, man. I would like to hear some of that too.
Yeah, no, I'll send you some stuff.
And then you know, I think because Old Mo is like the primary project, you're doing live music now.
We just actually got together. We
You
haven't
did,
been playing since COVID.
yeah, the
So I
pandemic.
think we have a gig we're opening. We're actually playing with Collins Ryan's or NCR,
Okay,
and I
MRC.
think
That's Ryan Collins.
MRC. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, what did I say? God, they're gonna hate me.
No,
They're
that's
gonna say
okay.
you're not playing with us anymore. No, uh, I don't remember what the date is. But we're playing. Playing with Sarah Moon. She's doing her CD release
Okay.
party. So, but
N- Nice. Uh, Don, it looks to me like my system is out of
you
resources.
froze.
Yeah. Can you hear me still?
I can,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
you're
My
totally.
system,
Oh wait, you're kind of moving now.
my system is out of memory though, so it's gonna like choke on me. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put out there that we get Old Mill to do live. I'm gonna come find you somewhere. Somehow we're gonna have to do a live video podcast of Old Mill because all of you guys are my brothers. I love you guys. It'd be great to showcase the band, and then we can hear sort of post premiere and find out how the premiere of Pinocchio was. So can we do a follow
Sure,
up? Okay.
definitely.
All right. Well, hey man, I appreciate your time here. Thank you so much, Don Schwartz. Thanks again to Five Star Guitars for supporting us. If you're interested, check out that SoundCloud link below, and you're going to hear tons of Don Schwartz music. Thanks again, my friend. You have a beautiful afternoon, and I'll catch you with Old Mill. Good luck at the premiere.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Take care, buddy.